Speaking of people who ought to be working at the Waffle House, should we go on to the next match so we can get this out of the way?
A lot of people want to hear what you're going to have to say about the next match. This may be the most in-demand review of the show. This and the main event.
No, well, only because people were offended and would like someone to speak on their behalf. They want somebody to vent their frustration at why that these two are allowed to honestly, at this point, have a job in this company. And I know, Hangnail, old Adam Page, they should have jerked a knot in his tail when he did the thing with Punk, but that cost the company a lot of money and lost viewership and revenue and time. The snowball, he started rolling down the hill. With Moxley, the fucking expiration date has come to where he doesn't need rehab. He needs mental evaluation. That's where he should have gone. Somebody needs to fucking check and see what the goddamn deal is going on in this fucking guy's head. He thinks he's Freddy Krueger, even though he looks like fucking Freddy the Freeloader. And he refuses to use the accidental celebrity and fame that he has gotten by virtue of him being pushed by the biggest company in the fucking world for that period of time to where now people know who he is. But because he was pushed by that company that kept him away from doing shit like this, because they apparently early on figured out he's a fucking mental incompetent and wouldn't let him do this shit. Now people think he's a star. And when he does this shit, it gives validation to them to want to do this shit too. And it inspires more of these garbage deathmatch, indie outlaw, wannabe mud show, mutilating freaks to go about their fucking business, and Tony Khan allows it. Both these motherfuckers should have been fired, not only for having this embarrassment to professional wrestling, but also, again, the people that the fans paid to see were coming up in a main event in a match that was going to go an hour, and as we found out, was also going to have blood. But these two have to have a fake Texas death match in name only, because they can't, I guess, figure out how to do it by the proper established rules. And then they've got to throw in every garbage match spot, death match fucking trope, as the kids say. And it looks like some goddamn Brokeback Mountain fucking stand-in beating up a goddamn homeless plumber under an overpass, and they're stabbing each other in the head with fucking forks. And it's embarrassing. This was at the same time one of the phoniest looking matches that AEW has ever presented, while being in probably the worst taste. And it's the kind of shit that people who want to fucking protest wrestling or knock wrestling or potentially even crusade against wrestling, they would get a fucking tape of this. Because it's not, you can't make the argument like you can with other deathmatch bullshit. Well, look, it's in a barn somewhere. These fat, tattooed, bald fucks with chains hanging out of their noses are carving each other up on purpose, and it looks phony and sloppy and in bad taste, and they're breaking glass up, but it's a barn, and they're nobodies, and there's only 100 people in the crowd. This is supposedly a big major league pro wrestling promotion. And they've got a budget, obviously, and there are people there. And then they still want to present something like this that requires no talent, no professionalism, no psychology, no logic. And all it does is damage the efforts of the people later in the card that have the real talent, that the people paid to see, that make you think that, wow, that fucking wrestling may be more difficult than we thought and require a little more talent and a little more savoir-faire than we might have given it at first glance. But no, any fucking drunk fucking jackoff can do this shit. Because look at those two, and both of them fit that description. and they're fucking slicing each other up on purpose with this phony fucking fight that they're having. Why are barbed wire boards at ringside in a Texas death match? What are barbed wire boards? What function does a board with curls of barbed wire wrapped on it perform in real life? Or is it just something that some goof, I don't want to say chemical-addled idiot, since he's been to rehab, some mental idiot dreams up because, that'll be gory and painful to roll around in coils of barbed wire in a Texas death match. It's not really a Texas death match, but we'll put a hat on a hat. But then the 10 count. Is it last man standing? Once a guy goes down, the referee starts counting to 10. So now we've changed to a last man standing match. Or maybe they just don't know what they're fucking doing. And they haven't thought it through because they're not capable of it. 2 minutes into this thing, the supposed babyface, Hangnail Page, is raking coils of barbed wire over Moxley's head so Moxley can fucking slice himself up like a goddamn lunatic. And by the way, yes, it used to work in the territories with Abdullah the Butcher and blah blah and the Sheik and blah blah blah. Because you only saw it every once in a while. You sure didn't see it goddamn 15 times a night, and they made it look like they kind of meant it. And when the Sheik did it over and over in his territory, it took him from the hottest territory in the country to fucking out of business in 5 or 6 years. Now Moxley got a fork, and he's stabbing Page in the head. Page is bleeding like a stuck hog. Moxley pulls half dozen chairs from under the ring and then finds one wrapped in barbed wire. Why? Who was that? Who got that ticket? Right? And is that the thing up in the cheap seats? The chairs are wrapped in barbed wire. What the fuck? This is phony bullshit. This might as well have a match being had by Moxley's fetish idol, the bank-addicted drug robber that he loves and slobbers all over so much. Or an Ian Rotten garbage show. Except they've got a budget. There were fucking goddamn state officials in the state of Kentucky that banned fucking wrestling from venues and places and strengthened the commission regulations over shit like this happening in a fucking roller rink. What do you think? And they're out in California. They won't ever go back to the state of California. Do they still have an athletic commission out there? Or maybe they're just concerned citizens. They go, oh, fuck. Is everybody like they did with the garbage death match show here in Indiana not long ago? Is the health department in San Francisco going to have to ask everybody to get tested that was there afterwards because they got all this fucking swine's blood slung on them? So anyway, so the cancer in the business known as Plumber Moxley and the empty-headed dipshit who've never done anything in the business continued fighting and Page wrapped the barbed wire around his chest, and finally, it took forever, got up to the top rope and just backflipped blind onto Moxley, who had to be standing there for at least a fucking minute waiting to catch him, because that's how long it took him to do it.
What a stupid idea.
Just idiots. Just fucking idiots. It takes no talent, and it makes no sense, and it doesn't draw money. It's a car wreck that you're watching car wreck videos. And if I'd have been MJF or Bryan Danielson, I'd have taken the opportunity to slap these two around about the head and face when they got back to the locker room. But anyway, they brought a logging chain out, and then Moxley stomped Page's hand in between two bricks. So I'm wondering if Renee Moxley Good has to watch the torture porn with this guy, or does he go in his room alone and do it?
You know what? On the pre-show, I didn't even tell you about some of the awful stuff with her. She was having a conversation in front of the crowd, in the arena, on the floor, with Don Callis, and she's having a conversation about how people don't give her husband enough respect because she watches her husband train and he's a serious wrestler. Oh my God. But it was just the most awkward, bizarre conversation because here's the heel manager who sucks as a heel manager talking with the wife of the world champion who happens to be the interviewer, and she's talking about being the wife of the champion. It was one of the worst things. You have to see it. You have to see it.
The ex-champion, at least.
Yes, that's right.
Thankfully. So then they did the shop class project where they put the barbed wire board on the chairs and they built some structures, and then they drove Moxley into it so he could land barebacked in the barbed wire and fucking make his faces because he's hardcore or whatever. And then Page goes to the top, but Moxley jumps up and pushes him off the top, so he flips off the top through a barbed wire board on the chairs on the floor. Of course, on the replay, which they were kind enough to show us twice, you could see that he flipped before Moxley ever even shoved him. But nevertheless, it wouldn't end. Then they got the chain and had a chain match. And then Page hit Moxley in the head full force, allegedly, with a brick, and Moxley was down for 7 seconds. But he stood up after being hit in the head with a brick and flips off Page with the double finger so that and stands there and lets Page leap over the top rope and buckshot lariat him as he's looking at him. He just stands there and lets him do it. And then Page wraps the chain around Moxley's neck and throws him over the top rope, and he's hanging him. And Moxley tapped out like this is a goddamn fucking UFC contest. I'm tapping out because I'm lynched with a logging chain. Which is, again, you can't do that in a Texas death match anyway. If you give up, it's still not over. But we don't know. It's last man standing, you can't tap out. I don't know what the fuck this match was. This was one of the worst exhibitions of whatever the fuck this is that AEW has ever presented, in my opinion. And as a matter of fact, tell me what you think, and then I'll give you somebody else's opinion.
I think Jon Moxley is one of the worst professional wrestlers I've ever seen, and I also think just in terms of his matches, we've seen enough of them now. Regular matches, which descend into whatever, gimmick matches. He's uncreative in putting together his matches. It's just dumb ideas. Hey, let's do it. Hey, let's just do this. Yeah, and then they do it.
Yeah.
And
it's fucking like he's talking about that fucking Gage clown. Yeah, he's fucking Nick fucking Gage. Yeah, you're fucking mental fucking deficient.
You're cosplay Nick Gage. Idiot. That's what the problem is. We've seen him as Dean Ambrose. This is cosplay Nick Gage.
Is this the first time that anybody ever aspired to cosplay the worst wrestler in the world?
Couple questions. One, I already know the answer to. If you see Moxley bleed every single week, does it mean anything when he bleeds again? No. If I'm assuming Tony Khan, I shouldn't assume that. A good promoter or booker knows what's happening with their talent and on their card. It's their card. If you know what's going to happen in the main event or things that are going to happen, do you tell these guys chill out with the blood? I mean, that's the other thing you brought up before, MJF and Danielson. That was a long, brutal match where there was significant blood.
Yeah.
Did it mean less because of this?
Yes. Everything in the main event that was still phenomenal would have meant so much more if girls, midgets, and drunken bums hadn't done it in front of the same crowd moments before. That's the problem. And yeah, and some people are going, well, Dusty loved the Blade too, and there was too much blood at Starrcade 86. There certainly was. And I will admit that also. But the Eddie Grahams, the Bill Wattses, the fucking people that really had their shit together and had control of their territories would goddamn, in the case of a major world title match, would not have allowed all this shit to go on when not only did, and that's another thing we'll talk about. Well, I'll save it for the review of the main event, but they would have benefited by different booking, not only with this undercard, but the way they got to this match to begin with, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, you have to, even if they're going to do it better, people have still seen it, and they've seen so much. And right now, just the next match, Samoa Joe against Wardlow. Samoa Joe, great talent when used properly. Wardlow, green but got over, and then they left him to flounder. But they go from literally a goddamn, the siege of the Alamo with gunfire and fucking fires and bombs and arrows and blood and two guys hand to hand on this show. And here's one thing real quick. Corey Strode, PWInsider.com, was trying to review this show as it happened. And his last line, a disgusting spot fest that went on too long. I'll bet the vampires loved it. And old Corey is willing to go along with a lot of the modern wrestling. But, it's just ridiculous. This fucking guy. That Jon Moxley thinks that somehow he is the one to go through all of this and do this shit. He's an embarrassment. And if I was Tony Khan, I was going to say if I was Tony Khan, I would have fired him. But if I was Tony Khan, I'd fire myself because Tony Khan's the one that let him do this shit.
What'd you think of Adam Page coming out to Ghost Riders in the Sky?
A shameful misuse of the Outlaws. A shameful misuse of the Outlaws and a classic guitar rock song.
Is that his new persona? When he comes out to that, he wears all black and he's tougher?
Oh, I don't. He couldn't be any less tough. I don't give a fuck what his new persona is. But anyway, among the worst AEW moments ever, let's move on, I guess. Where are we going? There's more of this, isn't there?
There's more of this. There's another match, Wardlow versus Samoa Joe, as you mentioned before, but perhaps after a match like that, you just want to close your eyes and shut it off.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish this show had been shut down about now, but nevertheless, my brain was almost ready to shut down. Thank goodness, as I mentioned earlier, I had had a good night's sleep. Because I'll tell you, if I'd been like the folks watching this live, if I'd have been up all day, oh my gosh, I would have been a raw nerve end. But thankfully, I got a good night's sleep and with fresh eyes was able to view this program. And the reason why I got the good night's sleep was because the previous night, I did what every smart sleeper is going to do. I laid my weary bones down on the Helix sleep mattress. And Brian, you've got Helixes for yourself and Suzanne. You got Helixes for the kids. You got Helixes for Swami.
I even have the all-form couch in the library.
You got the all-form couch in the I've got the wonder form couch. No, I've got it a wonderful form of a couch. It was a form of a couch. That's what they sent me. No, we've got all the Helix products because they're all comfortable. They're all wonderful. And right now, not only are they comfortable and wonderful, but folks, they're also going to give you a bigger discount than ever before. Now, Brian, a lot of times we've talked about up to $200 off or a couple of free pillows, but now we're able to offer 20% off of whatever you get moving forward. 20% off of, you can outfit the whole family. Like I said, the wives, the husbands, the kids, the dogs, the cats even. They got the premium mattresses that are tailored based on your unique sleep preferences, the luxury models, the big and tall sleeper mattress, the kids mattress. And again, it comes complete with the plastic bag that they can play with as a toy. It's amazing. The kids will have tons of fun, literally hours of enjoyment.
Literally, that wasn't true in any way. And of course, kids don't play with plastic bags as toys. They haven't for a very long time.
I did. When I was a kid, I had all kinds of fun. They told me one time, they said if it had been a few minutes longer, I might have stayed purple.
This explains so much. This explains so much.
But anyway, folks, how do you know which Helix mattress works best for you and your body? You take the Helix Sleep Quiz, and that's how you find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. And then that personalized mattress, whichever model you like, whether you sleep on your side or your back or you're hot or you're cold or whatever, They're going to ship it straight to your door free of charge. There's no shipping charge. And boy, I tell you what, when those guys show up at your front door with that Helix sleep mattress in that box, which, by the way, it's not a full-size mattress. The unboxing process is wonderful. You just slice it open and it breathes to life right where you put it where you want it. It just expands. It's amazing. But those guys that bring that mattress to your front door, they're going to be pissed because free shipping, they don't get paid. So you're going to have two highly pissed off
What? That's not how that
people.
works. That's not how that works.
Free shipping, they're not getting paid. They're not going to be happy bringing you this wonderful mattress that they wish they could have, but they can't afford it because nobody will pay them to deliver the things because it's free shipping. So they're going to figure, well, this fucking guy at this house has really screwed me out of my goddamn day's wages.
Come on.
And they might be a problem. You might have to give them something to go away.
The shippers, the couriers, whoever it may be, will be paid. The issue is, not even the issue, the wonderful thing about our wonderful friends at Helix Sleep, they will eat the cost. They will not make you pay the extra, and they will not deduct the money from the working man. They will take care of the working man with a working man's mattress that's also good for a millionaire. It's good for everyone. Check out the mattress. Don't worry about the plastic bags and anything else.
Boy, you got a little touchy there on that one, folks. These things are American made. And they come in Dubuque, Iowa, and they come with either a 10 or 15-year warranty, depending on the model. If you don't want to take my word for it, they're the #1 mattress picked by GQ and Wired Magazine. And everybody knows that, well, you know, if you've been sleeping on a mattress stuffed full of GQ and Wired magazines, you'll know that they're the softest magazines you can sleep on. Nevertheless, how did we start talking about that?
I don't even know what you're talking about anymore.
Well, you know, sometimes back in the old days, my Aunt Lola used to sleep on a mattress that was stuffed with Sears catalogs. Right now, folks, Helix supports military, first responders, teachers, and students by giving them a special discount. And on top of that, you're going to get the 20% off. Holy mackerel, they may pay you to take one of these things.
They won't do that. No, they won't do that. Holy mackerel, let's make sure we specify that won't be happening.
Well, you could be lucky. You never to try it and see what happens. Worst thing they can say is no. And Helix owns its own manufacturing facility. So each and every one of these Helix mattresses is made by a team of skilled manufacturers. So get your order in quick because they're busy. These 3 fucking guys are making all these mattresses. It's going to take them a while.
They have a big team and a skilled team. It's not just 3 people.
Well, it's just 3 that are doing the most of the work. A lot of the other ones just kind of standing around slack-jawing and gawking. Anyway, they got over 12,000 5-star reviews, does Helix. And right now, again, I mentioned the 20% and 2 free pillows. You can still get that deal going on. All you got to do is go to helixsleep.com. That's HELIX. helixsleep.com/JCE. Up to 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our devoted listeners. This is the best offer yet. It won't last long. This might bankrupt them. So hurry. They could be kicked out of their facility any time now because they're basically making no money by giving all this stuff away.
They own their facility, and they make money by selling the American people fine mattresses that are worth it.
Yes, but at these prices and with this kind of a deal, I don't see how they're making any money. I think you ought to hurry because these people, they're probably not, they're very good mattress makers, but they're not business minded. They need to make more profit.
Don't say that. Our sponsors run a great business.
They should be charging twice as much for these mattresses. You've felt how they feel. Why, as soon as you lay down, you go into a coma. You're in dreamland. You're in somnambuland.
That's right.
That's right. You're mesmerized.
With Helix Sleep.
Do you know where the term mesmerized comes from?
I don't know. I'm trying so hard to get us out of this, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll tell you what, the term mesmerized comes from the famed hypnotist Anton Mesmer. And I tell you what, he slept on one of these too. So what does that tell you?
He didn't sleep on one of those. You can't make a declaration like that you know isn't true.
How do I know it's not true?
Because Helix Sleep wasn't around when he was alive.
How do you know that?
When was he alive?
Years ago.
When? When did Mesmer, the man behind Mesmerize?
Probably in the 1800s.
I don't think.
Yeah, you think I'm making that up, don't you? You Google Anton Mesmer. And
I actually have a giant book over here of Passion's magic stuff, all the different posters and everything. So I'm sure I have a lot of Mesmer stuff.
Yeah, well, you'll be mesmerized by it.
By what?
HelixSleep.com/JCE. That's the place to go. That's the code to use. And that's the money to save. You'll be mesmerized.